It's time to start cutting some steel and fitting these patches. Hi, I'm Dave. Welcome back to 65 Fab. In the last video, I started the process of making each of these patches. There's 4 of them. So one there, we've got one here, and over in this corner we've got these 2. And getting them reasonably well fitted to the frame. The next step now is to remove the patches, cut the frame back to where we've got good steel, then I can put the patches back on in order, scribe them, cut them, tack them in. So what I'm going to do is do this end to end, so I'm not going to try and do them all together. I'm just going to do one patch at a time, get this patch out, cut it, tack it, then I'll go on to the next patch. If we look at this first patch, what we're going to be looking to do is to really, it's probably going to be cut, about halfway around and coming around to this corner. And similarly here, we know we're only going to cut it about halfway up. So all this top material will go away. This part here is where we're leaning it back. And this is going to take a little bit more adjustment to make sure it all sits flat. But I've kind of got to do that adjustment and dolly it in once I've started to cut some of the material out so I can get a really nice fit. So that's job number 1. That's what I'm going to start doing now. Righto, so due to a mishap with my GoPro battery, or more correctly a dodgy USB cable, I didn't end up recording me putting this patch in full. I've therefore now installed this first of the patches, and I've lightly just tacked it in with some little MIG tacks actually from behind. And I'll need to hammer and dolly this flat before I actually start completing it with TIG tacks, and then I'll weld the rest of it in with the TIG. But what is interesting and probably worth pointing out is, if you can see closely, the actual patch, because I only removed what was damaged steel. I wanted to keep as much as possible of the good steel, and this is the other patch we did earlier. If we look closely here, we can see that the actual patch is quite small. So I've removed a lot of the steel of the patch. As it comes around, it just sits down here, and there's not a lot to it. So it ended up, while it looked like it was a big repair, and not dissimilar to this side over here where there's a lot of material missing, by the time I'd actually removed that material, the actual patch wasn't too big. And I think that's important because it gives us a lot of this top steel, integrity here, and we're not compromising more of the shape or the overall structure than we need. Now, I think the next thing I'll do is we'll start getting this patch put back into place. We'll cut the compromised steel out from the corner and get this tacked into place so we can then go on and work on this one. And what I'll do is I'll just record small portions of this so you can see a little bit more of the process that I'm going through. All right, let's get into it. there we go. Similar to what we saw in the other corner, while it looked like a lot of compromised steel, and of course, you know, in reality it is, there's a lot missing, what we end up with is actually quite a small patch. So what I've got to do now is basically get this into place and gently tack it in with the MIG. I'm going to do that from behind again. And as I go around, I'm going to need to make some final adjustments just to push this back and get it all to fit. So, a bit of a fiddly process. I'll do that now, and rather than bore you through watching everything that goes on there, I'm basically just going to shape this around the corner as I tack very lightly with the MIG, and then I'll get back to you with progress. And just like that, patch number 2 is in place. So, just like the other side, the other corner, you know, I still need to go around and dolly this out and make it nice and flat before I put all my full TIG tacks, because this has just been done with just very few MIG tacks from behind, just to hold it in place and to help me get this corner bent around correctly. And the next step is that I'll do all these little TIG tacks, and then we'll weld it in with TIG. But my plan is I'm going to get all of the patches tacked in like this, so the whole thing is right, and then we'll do all of the TIG tacks and all of the TIG welding in one go. At least that's the plan. Just one important thing I wanted to cover off is in an earlier video, you probably saw I brought out this little tool, this sort of $45 air hammer. And what I wanted to just point out, and this is what I did on both sides, as I started to tack it in and come around, I tacked from each end, and then you can end up with a millimetre or sometimes a little bit more at times, where this isn't quite meeting up on the corner here. So that's where this came in, and I was able to very gently, with a dolly stuck behind here, get this air hammer and just gently work and stretch the steel around this corner until we got a nice flush meeting of the steel. So I've actually stretched it, it's formed back, we've tacked it in. Now I will hammer and dolly, you know, again, once I've got all of the patches in. But we'll hammer and dolly everything, get it nice and flat, and then work our way around. But you know, this tool has been a godsend. So, all right, tomorrow we'll continue with the next patch, which I think is going to be one of these. All right, I'll get back into it in the morning. there we have it. Each of the patches has now been gently tacked in. It's not fully tacked, so the next stage is for me to go around, as I mentioned before, and tack it all in, and then we'll weld it. I actually think there's a reasonable chance that I'm going to end up using both TIG and MIG for this one, because in a few areas, just because of the fit's a little bit wider than I'd like for TIG, and being reasonably old steel, I can see I'm likely to get myself into trouble. So that's the next step. I've got to dolly it all out, make it nice and flat, make sure all the flanges are sitting nicely, ready for us to actually put the full set of tacks in, whether they're MIG or TIG, yet to be determined. And then I'll weld it all in. But I think I'll do that offline, so to speak. So that's probably a good place to finish today's episode. So thanks for joining me. Please hit subscribe, hit like if you can, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.